All right, hello and welcome to lesson 10 of Last Epoch University. This is the second to last lesson, with the last one being on endgame. This one covers offense part 2. Hopefully you've watched part 1 already, and you picked up all the information there because that's a really important one. This is all the stuff we didn't cover in lesson 1, which includes damage over time, attack / cast speed, chance to apply, damage conversions, and finally minions. Let's start with damage over time. So how does damage over time work in Last Epoch? It's a little bit different in some games. It spreads out the damage over a period of time with ticks that happen, I believe, every 1 second. The duration is dependent on 2 factors. The base duration of the skill or ailment. Most ailments have 4-second duration, so 4 ticks. But some skills have a larger base duration. Also, any increased duration from gear, skills, or passives. Do note that if you increase the duration, you do increase the damage. There's a lot of confusion around that. You get increased duration and increase it from 4 seconds to 5 seconds, you've added another tick of damage. Dots are never a hit. This is important because any on-hit effects won't apply, including critical strike. They can't crit. They also cannot apply ailments unless specified. Some dot skills are able to apply ailments through parts of their skill tree, but otherwise they will not be able to. That brings us to the fact that dots can be either a skill or an ailment. Ailments being like poison or bleed. There's a lot of skills that are damage over time skills, and if they are, they get the damage over time tag on them. Ailments themselves are applied on hit, with some exceptions. For example, a damage over time skill that has in its skill tree the ability to apply ailments, for example, maybe every second. How do you scale damage over time, since it works quite a bit different than the other damage option, which is hit? So if it's an ailment, you have a chance to apply the ailment on hit. You also have increased damage type. So if it's poison, increased poison damage. You have increased ailment duration. You have ailment effectiveness, which is effectively a multiplier of the ailment damage. And you have increased / more damage of a skill that applies dots. This excludes damage on hit. So if you have a skill that has a more damage multiplier, let's say it causes the skill to do 30% more damage, then any dots applied by that skill, or if that skill itself is a dot, will be multiplied by 30%. Now, if that skill node says 30% more damage on hit, or 30%, I should say, more hit damage, then that will not apply to dots. So definitely be on the lookout for that, because some nodes and skills do have hit damage and other ones just say damage. You want the ones that just say damage if you're going for damage over time. You can also increase the base damage for some dot skills that have added damage scaling. So look for that as well. See if there's added damage scaling in a skill that has the dot tag. If it does not, it doesn't scale with added damage. Okay, let's talk about chance to apply. So any ailments have a % chance to apply that ailment. For example, a 40% chance to apply poison. In that case, 4 out of every 10 hits will apply a stack of poison. But you can have more than 100% chance. If you have more than 100% chance, then it causes 1 stack to be guaranteed on every hit, and there's a chance to be at least 1 additional stack. So if you have 200% plus, you get 2 guaranteed stacks, and a chance for additional 300%, 3 guaranteed stacks, and an additional, depending on how much more you have over 300. So if you have 340%, you have 3 guaranteed stacks and a 40% chance to apply a 4th. Some ailments do have caps, however. Time Rot has, I believe, a cap of 12 stacks. You can't put any more than 12 stacks on an enemy. Once you've hit that cap, all you can do is refresh the stacks. It won't go any higher. But major dot ailments do not have caps. They can be stacked infinitely. These are bleed, poison, ignite, frostbite, and electrify. There is no cap whatsoever on all of those ailments. Okay, let's go into attack and cast speed. So, the base speed of an attack is determined by the base speed of the weapon, along with the base speed of the skill. So skills themselves have their own base speed, weapons have their own base speed. You put those together to determine the base speed of the overall attack. Dual wielding takes the average of both weapons to give you that base speed. So of course, a faster attacking weapon will cause your skill to attack faster. Some skills are just slower inherently, but still will be increased by a faster weapon. You can also increase attack or cast speed. For example, put increased melee attack speed on a weapon, and it'll be significantly faster depending on how much increase you put. There is a notable exception to attack and cast speed. In fact, the way I worded this is probably not great, so let me go back. You can get increased attack speed, and you can get increased cast speed as just like default, like 10% increased attack speed. That will affect all attacks. Casting is different from attacking. Increased cast speed will affect all casts. Casts are spell only, so if you have a spell, usually you are casting. Again, there are exceptions, or there are always exceptions in Last Epoch, but that's the general truth of it, is if it's a spell, it's going to be a cast. If it's anything else, it's going to be attack. Because of this, melee throwing and bow attacks actually have two different stats that increase their attack speed. They each have a specific one: melee attack speed, throwing attack speed, and bow attack speed. They also will be affected by general attack speed. So if you have increased bow attack speed and you have increased attack speed, you add those together if you're using a bow to figure out how much increased attack speed you actually have. Now, there are some skills that cannot have any attack speed increased. Tempest Strike is probably the community favorite. It's unfortunately, it's the laughing stock of Last Epoch skills, and has been for a long time because the devs don't want to put any attack speed on it, which has made it pretty bad. Hopefully it'll get a rework. There are also some other skills though. Dancing Strikes does not increase from attack speed. By the way, Tempest Strike and Dancing Strikes do get a benefit from attack speed. Tempest Strike gets penetration. I think it's elemental penetration, and Dancing Strikes I think gets crit chance or crit multi. Or it's more damage. I can't remember. It's one of the three. I think it's more damage actually. So they get some benefit from it, but they're not actually getting attack speed out of them. But Dancing Strikes can actually get faster attacks through cooldown reduction, because Dancing Strikes uses 3 quick attacks together that have a very short cooldown each, and you can decrease that cooldown through cooldown reduction, so you can actually make Dancing Strikes faster. Channeled skills also aren't affected by attack and cast speed, with one notable exception, very notable, which Warpath can definitely be affected by attack speed. Okay, let's talk about damage conversions. These are very complex currently in LE. It would be nice if they got simplified a little bit. They come in multiple flavors, and it's really important to know which one you're getting, because you can do a whole lot of theory crafting, whole lot of planning for a build that won't do what you think it's going to do, and you don't figure it out till much later. Trust me, I know. All right, the first one, you can convert the base damage of a skill. For example, Rip Blood has a node called Rip Spirit. Take a look at that. Here. Take a look at that. Here. There we go. Rip Blood has right here Rip Spirit. Rip Blood and Blood Spatters base physical damage. Blood Spatters, by the way, is just, or Splatter is a sub skill of Rip Blood. Its base physical damage is converted to necrotic damage. Consequently, this damage scales with increases to necrotic damage, but not increases to physical damage. So it is changing the physical damage that this does baseline, 15 physical, right there, and it's converting it into necrotic, so it becomes 15 necrotic damage. This will also give it the necrotic tag, by the way, which can be important for some circumstances. Oh, what are we doing here? Nope, that's not what we want to do. There we go. All right, next one, we have a convert a node, or actually I should just keep this down because we're gonna go back there. Okay, convert a node or nodes of a skill. So for example, Rip Blood's got another one called Septic Wound. We look at that, that is here. What Septic Wound does is it takes the node Gushing Wounds, right here, which gives you 20% bleed chance per point, and makes that poison instead of bleed. It'll give you 20% bleed chance, or excuse me, poison chance per point instead of bleed chance. There's a hybrid of the first two. For example, Infernal Shade has one called Blood Shade. We go to Infernal Shade. Where are you? In front? There you are. We go to Blood Shade. Here it is. Infernal Shade's base fire damage converted to physical. So it's got 13.2 base fire. It's now physical. Consequently, this damage scales with increases to physical damage, but not increases to fire damage. On top of that, all ignite chances from this tree are converted to bleed chance, and effects related to ignite now depend on bleed instead. So if we put an ignite here, we can see that we have ignite chance here, ignite effect here. So what's going to do is it's going to take both those and say, no, that's actually bleed chance now, and that's actually bleed effect now. Next up, we have converts all the base damage from all sources. Big difference from just the base damage. Harvest has one called Elements of Death. It's a very powerful node in Harvest. Where are you, Harvest? There you are. It's down here. Elements of Death. All added damage is converted to necrotic for Harvest. Consequently, this damage scales with increased necrotic damage, but not increases to the original type, such as physical damage. So what does that mean? Was all added damage compared to added damage from this skill? So it's got 2 necrotic, so it's got very little to begin with. It's already necrotic, so it's not going to convert that because it doesn't need to. What it's going to do is going to say, all right, you've got on a weapon, and you've got 30 added fire damage and 30 added physical damage on it. Whatever, any element you want, any damage type you want. That's now 60 necrotic damage. So anything that scales necrotic damage will scale those, the base damage from that weapon that you had. So very powerful for creating the synergy like we talked about in offense, part 1. The synergy between added, increased, and more. If you have a node in here that's going to just convert all of the same element type or damage type, your job's easy. Next up is converts all sources of a damage type for that skill. So Soul Feast has Thought Corrosion. Soul Feast is right here. All right. Poison chance from all sources is converted to Armor Shred for Soul Feast, and Armor Shred applied by Soul Feast has increased effect. So this is similar to the added damage one, but instead we're just taking any poison chance from any source, and we're saying, now you're actually Armor Shred now. You got 150% poison chance from, let's say, a weapon. I don't even know. I think it can go that high. Maybe a little bit less than that. You got 30% from some other item. And you've got some on your passive. That's all now Armor Shred. All right, the last one we've got is a hybrid of 2 and 4, where it's all damage or all added plus sources from the tree. So Reaper forms Grave Chill is the example we'll use here. Here we go. So all of Reap's damage is converted to cold, even damage added by items. Reap poison chance gained in this tree is converted to chill chance, and Reap gains a freeze rate equal to twice your intelligence. So the important aspects here, all of Reap's damage is converted to cold, even damage added by items. So any added damage, similar to Harvest, becomes cold damage. So if you have physical and fire damage on your weapon added, again, not increased, but added, those are now both added cold damage. And on top of that, any poison chance you gain inside the tree is converted to chill chance. So it's both affecting stuff in the tree, poison to chill, and out of the tree, added damage. And also in the tree, if there's any added damage. Is there any added damage in here? Let's see. Might be. Oh, I don't see any. So you can have all of these are possibilities in the skill tree. So be aware of that. and read very carefully when you're trying to do a damage conversion. It can also not be in the skill tree. Like, actually, items can do conversions for you. And when you get that, make sure to read it and make sure to know exactly what it's doing. Okay, next, let's talk about minions. This should be the last section for us. So minions scale independently from the player. Very important to know that. If you get increased damage, your minions did not get increased damage. You got increased damage. You need your minions to get increased damage. You need to find minion stuff. This applies to both offense and defense. There are some exceptions, however. Manifest Armor has several nodes that allow it to share stats on gear, different items within Manifest Armor. There's one for body armor, there's one for gloves, etc. Allow it to take a percentage, which can go over 100%, of the stats on that item that you are wearing and apply it to itself. Ballista also has shared enhancements node, which adds some of your damage to it. There's also some items that can do some interesting things with that, but I'm not going to go too much into that because this is supposed to be a little bit more baseline, but there's actually a new item that can apply some of your own stats to minions, but these are all exceptions to the rule. They are not the rule. The rule is that minions do not take your stats. So the nodes and the fixes that you are looking for that will scale minions are minion, if it says minion in it. So for example, increased minion damage. This is a catch-all for every kind of minion you could possibly have. There are multiple types, as we're covering here. If it says increased minion damage, and it's a companion, it counts, and it's a totem, it counts. It's that, well, allies is something different. No matter what kind of minion it is, you will get the increase for that minion. Companions are for primalist pets. If it's a primalist pet, it is a companion. So any node or item that says does something for companions, increase companion damage, increase companion health, etc., that only applies to primalist pets. Also, only primalists can get this, so you won't find it on other classes. But it will not apply, for example, to a primalist totems. This will not affect that. Speaking of totems, there's also ones for totems. Example, increase resistance for totems. If you get this, then it will, of course, only go to totems. Your companions won't get it. If you have allies, if it says allies, it will go to all of the minions. It will not go to you if it just says allies, though. So be aware of that. If it says if you say it gives you giving this to your allies, you don't get it, but all your minions will. Also in multiplayer, this will give your friends it. Shared means that you get it and your minions get it, as does for you and your minions. You will both get it in that particular case. So lots of different ways to scale minions. Just be aware of the terminology and make sure you're not using one that won't work for you, like companions on a totem won't do anything. All right, that's it for this lesson. We're down to the last one. They'll be coming up real soon. Thank you so much for watching. If you would like to hang out with me on Twitch as I play the game way too much, would love to have you. Also, we have a Discord where we have lots of friendly people who are happy to ask or to answer questions or just talk about the game. Thanks again for watching. I hope you enjoy the game as much as I do, and I will see you all again real soon.